Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Did you know that nearly half of everything you do every single day isn't actually a conscious decision, but just a habit playing out on autopilot? It's wild to think about. If you've ever felt completely trapped by a certain behavior that you just can't seem to shake, well, you are definitely in the right place. Today, we're exploring a really fascinating breakdown of exactly why our bad habits form, and much more importantly, how we can finally break them. Because here's the secret the source material reveals right off the bat. Bad habits do not form in a single day. No way. They're sneaky. They creep in through our daily vulnerabilities. Everyday stress, sudden sadness, a little boredom, overthinking, or just kind of settling into our comfort zones. Bit by bit, these little behaviors take root until suddenly they're the ones calling the shots. But the really great news, and the core message we're going to unpack for you today, is that absolutely anyone who has formed a habit has the power to unform it.
But before we get into the actual mechanics of changing our behavior, I want you to pause and ask yourself one absolutely crucial question. Why am I doing this? Seriously, why? Because bad habits don't just magically appear out of nowhere. They almost always sneak in through the back door of our emotions. Every single negative habit we cling to is usually hiding right behind a specific trigger. And if we don't pause to ask ourselves why a certain behavior is happening in that exact moment, we're never going to be able to uproot it. To demystify the psychology behind habit breaking, we'll be following 5 clear phases. 1. Why bad habits form. 2. The start, which is all about finding your reason and taking small steps. 3. Change, through new habits and environment. 4. Consistency, focusing on progress and overcoming obstacles. And 5. The end goal, changing your actual identity. All right, section 1. Why do bad habits form? Because understanding the root cause is your foundational step to taking back control. So every bad habit is directly tied to an emotional trigger. Finding your specific trigger is a huge first victory. Let's look at a few common examples from our source data. When stress hits you hard, your immediate automatic response might be mindless phone scrolling. Or when sadness sets in, that might be the exact trigger for overeating. And when loneliness creeps up, well, that is often the precise moment people find themselves reaching for their phone to text toxic people from their past. Do you see the pattern? The habit itself is really just a symptom. The emotion is the root. Spotting that connection is exactly how you start taking your power back. Moving right along to section 2, the start. Reason and small steps. How do we actually kick off this change without setting ourselves up for failure? Okay, we have to talk about the myth of changing everything all at once. The folks who try to be perfectly disciplined overnight, they are usually the exact ones who crash and fall right back into their old ways. It's so tempting to say, that's it, no social media starting today. But honestly, that's drastic, it's intimidating, and it almost never works. What's a far more sustainable approach? Instead of going from 5 hours of scrolling down to absolutely zero, you just say, I'm only going to use it for 2 hours a day. Starting incredibly small completely removes that intimidation factor. It's these tiny, super manageable changes that actually snowball into long-term, permanent results. Which brings us to section 3, change, new habits and environment. This is the fun part, where we shift from just thinking about change to actively replacing our routines. Now, here is a vital rule of human psychology. You cannot just leave an empty space. It's impossible. If you stop a bad habit and just leave a void there, your mind is going to sprint right back to the old familiar pattern. You have to actively plug a positive action into that slot. So overthinking gets replaced by journaling. Mindless phone usage is swapped out for reading a book. And when anger bubbles up, instead of defaulting to yelling, you immediately replace that urge with taking a short walk. You absolutely have to purposefully hand your mind a new, better alternative to focus on. And your struggle isn't always about a lack of willpower. Often, simply tweaking your physical environment is the most effective way to change your behavior. I mean, think about it. You wouldn't try to start a strict diet while sitting inside a bakery, right? If you need to study, physically place your phone in another room. If you want to stop eating junk food, literally do not keep it in your house. If you want mental peace, actively distance yourself from toxic people. Don't fight your surroundings, redesign them. When you do that, your habits will naturally follow suit. Let's jump into section 4. Consistency, progress, and overcoming obstacles, because you will inevitably face setbacks, and how you handle them is literally everything. Tracking and celebrating your micro wins is absolutely essential.
We so often wait around for these massive life-changing milestones to feel proud of ourselves, but the source material heavily emphasizes appreciating the tiny victories. Just acknowledging things to yourself like, hey, I controlled my anger today, or I didn't send that unnecessary message, or I actively calmed my mind today. Why does this matter so much? Because these tiny little moments of success trigger real dopamine hits in your brain. They are the actual building blocks that cultivate the deep self-confidence you need for a stronger you. Now, I really want you to absorb this next thought. Life's change is not a straight line. This is so vital to remember. Imagine you've had 10 incredible days where you stuck perfectly to your new habits. You're crushing it. And then on the 11th day, you stumble. You make a mistake. The immediate knee-jerk reaction is usually to think, ugh, I can't do this, and just throw the whole effort out the window. But the data tells us loud and clear that one mistake does not erase your entire journey of progress. Please do not let one bad day convince you to give up on the 10 amazing ones. And finally, we arrive at section 5, the end. Change your identity. We've reached the climax of our explainer, moving way beyond physical actions and into the ultimate psychological shift required for lasting change. This right here is perhaps the most profound takeaway from all the source material. True lasting change isn't just about what you do. It's about shifting your internal identity to match who you actually are. Listen to the difference in these mindsets. A goal-focused mindset says, I want a healthy life. Okay, fine. But an identity-focused mindset declares, I am someone who protects my health. Do you feel the difference there? Once you shift your identity to align with your positive actions, the habits just naturally lock into place. Why? Because they are no longer chores you have to force yourself to do. They're simply reflections of who you genuinely are. As we wrap up this analysis, we do have to acknowledge a pretty hard truth presented in the text. Breaking bad habits is not an easy thing to do. It's tough. But staying a lifelong prisoner to them, being constantly subjugated by behaviors you hate, that is much, much harder. The source leaves us with an incredibly powerful promise. Those small, daily, manageable changes we've discussed today will, eventually, completely transform your entire life. Do not let the habit you are fighting today dictate and control your future tomorrow. I want to leave you with one final thought, directly inspired by everything we've uncovered in this explainer. You've got the tools now. You understand the emotional triggers, and you know the sheer power of tweaking your environment and shifting your identity. So I have to ask you, which small change are you going to make today? Not tomorrow, not next Monday. Take control of your future right now by choosing just one tiny, manageable action to start today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I absolutely cannot wait to explore our next topic with you.